Welcome to the RocketPD Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Murray. I'm a longtime education journalist and co-founder of RocketPD, here to bring you real talk with educators confronting what's broken in America's schools and hopefully offering up some advice and solutions about how to help fix it. Whether you're out to engage families, center students in their learning, or empower teachers and staff, we're going to cover the gamut, giving you ideas and frameworks that you can start using today. So what do you say? Are you ready to launch? Then let's get into it.
Two things helped me be a superintendent for 27 years. Number one, I was a government teacher for 8 years, so I understood politics. And number two, I was a basketball referee for 7 years. Everybody's always yelling at you. You can't lose your mojo just because somebody's upset.
Today's conversation is with someone who has spent nearly 3 decades at the Center of Public Education. Former Dallas ISD superintendent and founder of the Together Network for Transformation, Dr. Michael Hinojosa.
So I Googled the word politics, and the root word came up as power. Well, that's not a good word unless you say she's a very powerful person. But to say that you want or you like power, that doesn't sound right.
In this episode of the RocketPD Podcast, Hinojosa and I talk about what it really takes to lead in today's climate, from navigating fractured school boards and community pressure to building strong leadership and shifting from a lens of strategic planning to one of strategic thinking.
I Googled the word power and the word influence came up. Now, nobody has a problem with the word influence. So I have the ability to break things down like that into simple things. So don't think about it as being political. Think about it as being influential.
We also dive into why superintendent tenures are getting shorter, how to build a coalition for change, and why experience still matters when the stakes are highest.
There are some amateur politicians that talk a lot, make a lot of noise, but they don't influence anything. And all politics is local. What that means is that there's politics on soccer teams. When you explain it like that, people get it.
If you're a school leader looking to make a meaningful impact or just trying to survive in a tough job, today's episode is for you. So let's get into it. All right, Dr. H, good to have you. We are talking leadership today, and I really wanted to get your take. You've been around for a while. You've led the Dallas School District for many years. You were in Cobb County for many years. You have received every award under the sun for school leadership. And so I was excited to get you here on the call today to talk to you about some of the things that school leaders are facing. We know we see superintendents with shorter tenures than ever before. We know we see a lot of people under a lot of pressure. And school leadership has become, if it hasn't always been, a real challenge. So I wanted to talk to you about what leaders can do differently, what leaders can do better, and how hopefully they can protect their jobs as they look to make a mark in their communities and their school districts.
For me, it's personal. I'm proud to be an immigrant. I'm proud to be from the toughest part of Dallas. And education is what broke the cycle of poverty for my family. All 10 of us, I was the last one born in Mexico. All 10 of us are very successful in my family, and that's because my parents wanted to make sure that we came to the United States, we would get an education. 3 of us graduated from college, but the real legacy of my parents is that they had 22 grandchildren. Out of the 22 grandchildren, 2 are special needs, and they didn't go to college like most of America. The other 20 went to college, and 16 graduated, including my 2 sons who went to Harvard and Princeton. So one generation removed, a strong public education is a great foundation. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm still active in this business. And while there are a lot of challenges out there, there are always challenges. And I have a very positive attitude. I always talk about the future because I believe in the future now. And despite all the drama that's going on in the country and in the school districts, I believe that the only way to control the future is to create it. And superintendents have the opportunity to create the future for themselves and the students that they serve if done right and done well. And so despite the challenges, and there are many, financial, declining enrollment, but I think if people are hungry, humble, and smart, and they're in the right network, and they work with other people, they can accomplish anything. So I'm a true believer in this. And despite the competing, the monopoly that we had in the 50s and 60s is long gone. And so we had to figure out how to compete with others to make sure that our students have an equal life's chance.
Now, I've been reading a lot about superintendent tenures, right? They seem to be going in the wrong direction. People are at their jobs for shorter amounts of time. It seems like these jobs are hard to get and difficult to keep. Can you tell me a little bit about why things are so challenging for that school leader in that top job right now?
Well, they used to, the politics of the job used to be only in urban areas. That's no longer the case. Suburban areas and rural areas are really challenged. In fact, the turnover rate in the big city school districts is like incredible. There's only like 5 superintendents that have been superintendents before the pandemic of the 81 districts in the Council of the Great City Schools. So the turnover is significant. The preparation of people to sit in the chair is limited. Many people, over 3/4 of the people in the Council of the Great City Schools, this is their first superintendency, and now they have to deal with the media, the politics, the board. And then there's declining enrollment. There's diminishing returns and diminishing, not returns, but actually diminishing resources is what I meant to say. And then, we deal with people's 2 most prized possessions, their money and their kids. And so they're going to have an opinion. And the volatility has really increased. And many people who didn't have to have the job gave it up because it was just so challenging. But I also think that there are ways that we can mitigate that. And I think I work with a lot of people who have the same belief system, and I think we can help people be successful despite the challenges.
Now, speaking of those challenges, I know that you've been traveling around helping school district leaders out with their vision and with their leadership. You have now started a new consultancy where you're coming in with a group of people and you are engaging with school leaders who need assistance either with their boards or with their communities to get the hard work of change done in their school districts. Tell me a little bit about the vision that you have for your organization.
Yeah, I was once asked who was the best consulting firm in education in the country, and there is not one. And so that's the void I want to fill. And what I want to do is help people. And you left out an important stakeholder. I work with boards and I work with communities, but also work with staff members. The staff, that's the success triangle. The students are at the middle, the top is the board, at one corner is the staff, and the other corner is the community. And if you can move everybody in the same direction, you can thrive. If you only got 2 parts of that triangle, all you can do is survive. So what I'm trying to do is build some muscle in superintendents and their teams. And I'll come in and work with a very fractured board. So I think there's 3 entry points where we can be a solution. If there are major issues and you need someone with fresh eyes and experience to come in who's walked in these shoes, we have a dynamic team of people who will help do that. We're not afraid to jump into the battle with you. Second entry point is, when there's a leadership transition, everybody's nervous when the superintendent leaves and another one is coming in. We have some tools and some skills that would allow us to calm things down. And if the interim is a candidate, we can help that person get ready. Excuse me. If there's just someone sitting in as a placeholder, we can help the district make important decisions until the next superintendent comes in so they don't have to deal with those issues. And so it just depends on and we'll help the board figure out who is the best candidate for the next superintendency, and because we have that experience. The third entry point, though, is there are a lot of systems that are doing great, but if you're standing still, you're going to get worse. So we know how to innovate, and so the title of the name of my company is the Together Network for Transformation. All 3 words matter. We're all together. It's a network of people, and then we're not looking to reform the school system. We're looking to transform the system, and that's what gets me excited to do this work, and that's why we have the skill, the time, the capacity, to come in and help systems get better for the long term. But we don't want to stay forever. We want to build the capacity, give you the tools, and then walk away. And then if you need us, call us. If not, then we've done our job.
That's great. Now, I know that as a leader of a major school district, you have brought consultants in to work with you. And I think in that time, you've seen some things that work well with those individuals, and you've seen some things that don't work quite so well. Can you tell me a little bit about how your organization is different or better from some of the things that you may have encountered as a leader of a school district?
Yeah, a lot of these people or resources, they come in and they tell you what's wrong and they give you some recommendations and then they go away. And it's up to you to execute. And that's where the failure is, I think. And because all four of the principals in this organization have executed significant plans. And so we'll come in, identify the issues, we'll help you get the solutions, and then we'll be with you at elbow, figuring out what works. We may need to stay 3 months, we may need to stay 6 months, or it just depends. Everything's going to be different. But see, we don't want you to buy into the solution. We want you to own the solution. And that cannot happen with a report and that gets put on the shelf or gets executed. And so, a vision is a dream with a deadline. And we will help you get to that deadline through execution. And I think that's what's going to set us apart from any other consulting firm that may exist. And we have also the resources that if we don't have the capacity elsewhere, we have connections. We have someone who does communications, comms. We have people who do finance. But all of us have a lot of expertise in those areas. We have an outstanding governance model and coach who can start from the top. So I think this is a comprehensive service that is non-threatening and that people who have walked in these shoes for decades.
Great. Now, I know you mentioned this earlier, right? Yeah, it's great to be hungry and humble and smart. And I know you're humble. You don't always love to talk about yourself, but I am going to ask you to talk a little bit about yourself, your career, sort of how you got to this point, and why after all these years, you still want to be around schools. This is the thing that you want to continue to do, even as you've stepped away from the superintendency. A lot of people step away from the superintendency and run away from schools. So I'd love to hear you talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about that. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of people support me in my career, and I always had mentors who helped me out. And I'm a problem solver, and I'm a coach. My favorite title is coach. If you call me Dr. Hinojosa, I'm probably going to correct you, ask you to call me doc or coach. And because I know how to solve problems, and that's what I've done my whole career. I'd rather not talk about myself. If you really want to know something, watch a PBS documentary called Dallas 2019, and I'm in episode 2, and it shows PBS followed me around for a semester, and they put it down into about a 45-minute segment along with a couple of other people, and so that shows you, it tells you what I'm about and what I'm like. But there's no challenge that I think we solve the wrong problems. I think one of my skill sets is identifying the problem. I had more training from business books, because I read more business books than I did education books when I was a baby superintendent. In fact, I go by 2 quotes all the time. Number one, quote by Tom Peters: incrementalism is innovation's worst enemy. If you're only tinkering around the edges, you're not going to get transformative change. And then the second one is John Cotter, Harvard Business School and Harvard Business Review. He says, transformations fail for 2 reasons. There's not a sense of urgency, and there's not a guiding coalition to solve the problem. So we have a lot of urgency. We just don't have the second part, and that's what the Together Network for Transformation will do, is help you develop a guiding coalition. Here's an example of some of the problems I solved. When I was superintendent in Dallas in 2009, only 7% of our students had any kind of post-secondary credential 6 years after high school. When I retired in 22, 11% of our kids, 12% of the seniors had an associate's degree for free before the 6-year clock starts. And so that's what I do. I solve those kind of problems. We had 46 F schools when I came back to Dallas. Right before the pandemic, we were down to 4 in 4 years. Um, there's no problem that is too big that we can't solve. But you got to have the right team, the right people, and a lot of people have ideas, but a lot of people can't execute. And that's what we'll help you do, is execute on your
I
ideas.
love that. So I want to talk about 3 big issues. These are the same 3 big issues or challenges that we talked about in our course that we filmed a while ago. But I think you do a great job of talking about these things. When you talk about transformation, you think, as a leader, how can I be transformational? You've always told me there are really 3 things, right? And those 3 big things are talent identification, talent management, and then, of course, the art of politics. Let's talk about those 3 ideas for a second and what they look like to a transformational school leader.
Yeah, well, there's a bank robber named Willie Sutton. They asked Willie, "Why do you rob banks, Willie?" He goes, "That's where the money is." So talent, that's the people. My greatest skill is talent. And talent management has 3 components: talent identification, talent development, and talent promotion. I learned early on that hiring people is an inexact science. And so it's better to develop the people that you have than to go out looking for the rock stars. And so I've spent my whole career developing talent. 49 people who have worked with me have become superintendents. But it's not just people who want to become superintendents. It's how develop them, and they may go serve another district, but at least they're serving children, and they may come back to you in some kind of capacity. So I think that is the gold standard about how you get that done. But you have to think differently about how to take that piece, because 85 85% of your money is in people. So if you don't have a strategy to deal with people, then you're losing a lot at the table. Yeah, but also I have a contrarian's view of loyalty. One guy came in and says, "Doc, I want to be loyal to you." I said, "Man, don't be loyal to me, fool. I could be an evil son of a gun. You don't know who I am. Don't be loyal to me. Be loyal to the students, be loyal to the district." So when you build that brand equity, and you build people's strengths, then they will do anything for you, the district, the students, and the kids. And so that's why we try to build that capacity in people.
Now, you always tell me that you on your resumes, you have a couple of questions that you always ask, or in your interviews, you have a couple of questions that you always ask people to identify who those rock stars in your organization are or potentially could be. Can you tell me a little bit about those questions?
Yeah, what I do with all my direct reports, once a quarter, for my whole career, I would ask them 5 questions. The third question was always about relationships and who are the most respected. And when I do an entry plan, question number 4 is, who are the most respected people on staff? And then we literally identify who our rock stars are, not by title, not by position, but by talent and results. And then we go and build on their strengths. We teach them to work together. So I'm always hunting for talent on the way in the whole year. And, so that's basically what I do. And we can help any school system do that. And good things happen by design, not by accident. And this is a design element of what we will bring to any school district that works with us.
Excellent. Now tell me a little bit about politics for a second. This is the thing that we've talked about that you've learned over time. There is an art to politics. We feel like you can be an educator in a school system for a very long time, and you can rise all the way to the superintendency for the good work that you do in that system. But sometimes it isn't until you get there that you are really exposed to the politics that are taking place in communities and on school boards, and you need to learn to navigate that. So tell me a little bit about politically how superintendents can be wise, how school leaders can be wise, and the way that they navigate those situations, particularly if they're learning about it for the first time.
A couple of things. Number one, Two things helped me be a superintendent for 27 years. Number one, I was a government teacher for 8 years, so I understood politics. And number two, I was a basketball referee for 7 years. Everybody's always yelling at you. You can't lose your mojo just because somebody's upset. And when I said that about understand politics, but I'm not a politician, my school board members would tell me, Hinojosa, you're the best politician we know. And so I kind of took offense to that. So when I was writing my book, by the way, in all the academies that I teach, this is the biggest fear that superintendent candidates have. And by the way, even though you're a deputy, until you sit in that chair, it's so different. Now you're accountable for everything. So when I was writing my book, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, I'm not proud of my SAT score. So I Googled the word politics, and the root word came up as power. Well, that's not a good word unless you say she's a very powerful person. But to say that you want or you like power, that doesn't sound right. So Wikipedia came to my defense again. I Googled the word power and the word influence came up. Now, nobody has a problem with the word influence. So I have the ability to break things down like that into simple things. So don't think about it as being political. Think about it as being influential. There are some amateur politicians that talk a lot, make a lot of noise, but they don't influence anything. See, so it is and all politics is local. That was a quote by Sam Rayburn, later Tip O'Neill, what that means is that there's politics on soccer teams. If you want to go to out of state with your soccer team, you better know which soccer mom has all the influence. That is nothing but politics. When you explain it like that, people get it. When I had one superintendent that was working with me that was very upset that he lost two referendums, one for operation and one for bonds. So I said, you need to go power map. He goes, what's that? Power mapping is where political mapping, you go and you identify who influences whom. And he has done that. And I'm going to predict with a high degree of certainty that his next bond election and his tax rate election will pass. So that's part of the job. Find out who has the power. And I always have different definitions for words. Like discussion is let me convince you I'm right. Dialogue means it's not your way or my way, but a better way. And that is the art of politics.
Very cool. Now, you've said something, and I kind of chuckle when you say it sometimes, because every time I visit a school district, people invariably start talking about their strategic plan. And you said to me, everybody's got a 3 or 5 year plan. And I'll tell you a little secret. It's probably not going to come to fruition, right? Because there's a difference in your mind between strategic planning and strategic thinking. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I've never had a strategic plan in my whole career. When I was in spring, we had a 5-year plan because the board wanted one. But nobody looked at it. And I tell superintendents all the time, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. You know what's going to happen in 18 months. So, and Tom Peters is the one that taught me that. And he said, strategic planning, rest in peace. And I followed that since 1995, for 30 years. And then when I went to when I was Cobb County Superintendent, I went to University of Georgia Business School. They're the ones that coined the phrase for me, strategic thinking. And they defined it as an 18-month period. And they said every quarter you pierce the next quarter, things become more clear. Now people laugh at me all the time because they say, well, I want to talk about strategic planning, but Doc doesn't believe in it. And I own it. I don't. Every quarter you solve problems. I tell superintendents, you know who reads your strategic plan? It's not you. It's not your senior staff. It's not your board. It's the vendors who are trying to sell you something. And they say, okay, here on this thing, my product or service will help you accomplish your strategic plan. They're just trying to buffalo you. So I'm notorious for that. So don't say, no, we're not going to help you develop a strategic plan. If you have one, I'm not going to make fun of it. I just know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's great to shift that mindset, I think, because we can rely on documents and we can rely on plans, but the reality is the situation on the ground changes quickly. You've written a book called Superintendent Wise, Critical Lessons for Leading Your District. We've talked a little bit about some of those lessons already today. If I'm a school leader and I'm new to my position and I know looking at the numbers that it's likely that I might not have my job in 2 or 3 years, what's the first thing that I should be doing as a school leader, knowing that my runway is short? If I want to get anything done, I've got to make that runway a little bit longer.
Effort is good, results are better. So you got to get results. Nobody wants a whiner, they want a problem solver. So the best thing to do, and you can't solve problems by yourself, the best thing you can do is figure out the talent piece. In my book, I have it divided in 7 chapters. One is board relations. Board members hire the ones that like and fire the ones you don't. If you can't get along with the board, it doesn't matter. Second is media and politics, especially in big cities. You got to deal with the media, and you certainly have to deal with the politics in any district. Third chapter is talent management and labor relations. You got people. You're a people-driven organization, so you got to figure out how to marshal those resources. Chapter 4 is very interesting. It's performance management and community relations. I actually had the epiphany when I wrote my book that I use the community to drive performance. They help me more than anybody else. I don't get to teaching and learning till chapter 5, because if you can't do the first 4, you're not going to be around. Chapter 6 is operations. We are a big business, so you got to know the ops. And then chapter 7 is ethics and equity. And I had an argument with my publisher, and I won. They wanted me to have that as my first chapter. I said, no, you can't talk about equity unless you've delivered. If you deliver, now you can talk. There's people who have fire and brimstone about equity, and all they're doing is blowing smoke. So I kept it for the end. And of course, ethics is very important. And you have to look at the body of the work of the individual. Because, even some people that are very prominent make dumb mistakes, or everybody, there's only one person who's infallible. All of us make mistakes, and some of them are dumb, some of them are sinister, but it's what do you do for the body of work? How do you, here's a very example thing of something that's unethical. And you wouldn't think of it this way. Some people say, I'm a collaborative leader. Oh, that sounds great. But yeah, you want to make all the decisions. And you don't let anybody else share. Well, then you're not a collaborator. You said you were, but you weren't. That is unethical. So that's an example of how I flow.
Now, let me ask you this. You've been around, right? Again, you were in Cobb County, you were in Dallas. You've helped a ton of school leaders become better, stronger leaders through CGCS and the Council for the Great City Schools. You've seen a lot. Tell me, in your work and in all these years, toughest leadership challenge you ever faced?
Well, in 2008, I had to lay off 1,000 teachers in October, in the middle of the year. No money was missing. No money was stolen. We just overhired. And we had $64 million hole in the budget, and we had $32 million in reserve. There is no way out of that except to lay people off, sever contracts. So I had to come up with a solution. I came up with a solution with my chief of staff in my conference room. Then I called the board. I called my wife. We had a communication tree with the staff. I called the news conference and told everybody what was wrong. And I told the board, look, I deserve to be fired. But if you fire me, you're going to argue for 3 months about who's going to be the interim. You're going to argue for 3 months about who's going to do the search. You're going to argue 3 months about who's going to get the job. And then I'll have this solved by the summer. I have a solution. It's painful, but it's a solution. So they let me stay. And then they rehired me a second time. So that you got to own things. I wasn't an accountant. I didn't run the HR systems that allowed us to overhire. But as a superintendent, you're responsible for everything. And if you accept responsibility, then you're in control of the solution. And it was very difficult for me, but it all worked out. And the district would have become insolvent, and the state would have taken them over, and you wouldn't see Dallas ISD like it is today. That's how big the stakes were, and so it was very personal. But it is what it is.
Now, bar none, this is a tough business. I don't care how you come into it. What would you tell a young superintendent or an aspiring superintendent today about why they should get into this work?
Well, first of all, I have a lot of Hinojosa-isms. Here's one of them, is you got to do you, but it's not about you. What that means is do it for the right reasons, and you got to be proud of who you are, because you can't change who you are. You're a set of your experiences. But this is not about you. You're here to serve. You're here to serve a community. Being a superintendent, you make a difference for students. Being an urban superintendent, you make a big difference for students. You give them an equal life's chance if you do this job. It's very rewarding. I have no regrets about being a superintendent for 27 years. It is a very rewarding job. Difficult? Yes. But who wants an easy job? Not me.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you again for spending a few minutes chatting with us, talking about your approach to leadership, talking about the network that you're building through the Together Network for Transformation. If you're listening to this and you want to learn more, we'll include a link to Dr. Hinojosa's new consultancy down below. You can also visit RocketPD.com to check out this episode and other episodes. Dr. H, again, I just want to say thank you. It's been great chatting, and we hope to have you back real soon.
Thanks, Corey. See you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the RocketPD Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Murray. We hope you found today's conversation insightful. If you enjoyed what you heard, consider clicking that like button and subscribing to our channel. You can download the RocketPD Podcast wherever you find your favorite pods. We're also on YouTube. Just search for RocketPD. At RocketPD, we're on a mission to empower the world's teachers and staff. To learn more about our work and the community we're building together, visit us anytime at RocketPD.com. If you're an educator and you're listening to this, remember, your work matters. So be well, do right, and let's keep up the fight.